Well, good evening and welcome to another edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm joined by co-host Garrett Punchy Dill. We have with us Mr. Gary Darrow, and we are waiting, due to some technical difficulties, we are waiting Clyde Bess. But Punchy, obviously this show here has been very exciting, and we've only had 1 week. And I'm pretty sure by the reaction from my phone when I posted that we were going to be speaking with Gary and Clyde earlier today, it's a lot of people out there waiting to hear from these two gentlemen. And I know you're excited as well because it's an opportunity to talk to some of our heroes, from years going by. Your thoughts?
Just great. Actually, I want to say to Gary, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Friday coming, that was 102, you were on a 102.7, I believe. And they were doing a show about Donald, I think it was Donald Dane's birthday, I think, Gary?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, knowing about the influence that Donald Dane had on you guys. But it's just like, I was just, whoa. And I was called the show, but to speak with Larry. But anyway, I didn't get the chance to. He had gone off the show. But just to hear all the information and so much information concerning Devonshire Colts and you guys, what Devonshire Colts were built around, and I was just in awe. I was like, wow, And I had to go on later on. I'll tell him something a secret about that. But I'll leave that way. But anyway, it was just a great show. I enjoyed this. Ellsworth Lambert was on. I think it was you, Gary, Larry Smith, and I just thought the information concerning that with the influence of Donald Dane, which was just a great, really good,
Good show. I really enjoyed it. Damon Simmons was on as well.
Yes, it was. That's right. Damon was on also. Yeah.
We are joined by Clyde Bess as well. Good evening, Mr. Bess. How are you? Can you hear us, Mr. Bess?
Is that good?
Yeah, I could wait to hear. One more time. Can you hear us, Mr. Bess? He's having a bit of technical difficulties, but first of all, Mr. Darrow, obviously you got started.
It's not a good connection for me.
Okay, we can hear you clear as day now, Mr. Bess. No, he's still having problems. He's having problems. Okay. A lot of people around our ages would know that you started out at the East End with a team called Wellington Rovers.
I hear that now, Earl. But it's in and out.
And then you moved on to Devonshire Colts, but getting a start at Wellington Rovers, take us back to those times, obviously because that team no longer exists, but actually out of that team came a lot of players that made other clubs a lot stronger when guys moved to them.
Yes, that's quite a while ago. I ended up at Wellington Rovers first of all. I'm born and bred in St. Georgia. My brother Gilbert played for Wellington Rovers. And the team that I ended up playing with in Wellington Rovers actually came through the St. George's Youth Club. And when we all reached the age of going to senior football, we had a choice of either going to join Wellington Rovers or St. George's Colts. And we wanted to stick together, so we approached both clubs. We wanted to keep our colors, which was green and black, and try to stay together as much as we can. And Colts wouldn't have it. They said, you can come and you would have to wear our colors, and we were going to split you up because there was the East and the West reserve division teams that we would have played in. And we went to Wellington. They said, you can have whatever you want, keep your colors. We didn't give you a couple of senior players to help strengthen your ranks. And that's how we ended up at Wellington Rovers. That was when we just turning 18, just too old to be playing junior football anymore. That's way back.
Then you find yourself moving to Devonshire Colts after a few years. You know, why did you choose Devonshire Colts as opposed to St. George's Colts?
I actually moved out of St. George's. I moved out of St. George's. I was living in on St. John's Road, right up by Dendy Town, up on Sandy Hill there.
Okay.
I think that was in '67 when we came back from the Pan American Games. We moved out there, and working in Hamilton as well. And had a couple of clubs approach me about playing. And going to Devonshire Colts was an easy decision because I've been involved with the coach, Mr. Donald Dane, since primary school days. And he approached me and I said, well, let me think about it. He said, what do you mean think about it? You're going to play for us. So, with no hard decision there. And that's how I ended up at Devonshire.
Yeah, back then it wasn't, to Mr. Dean, it wasn't no back answering. It was whatever you said goes, yes, sir, and move on.
Yeah.
Bunchy?
Yeah, Gary. I was gonna ask that question was on my list too. Actually, what made you leave Wellington and come up to play for Devonshire Colts? But the other thing is what I want to know is we'll speak a little bit about Mr. Dean, because you were saying that how the influence that he had on you, the influence on all of Devonshire, the way Devonshire Colts playing. And I'm gonna let a secret out. I used to travel a lot with my brother Calvin when Northwest was still just struggling, just rebuilding the program, and we were losing 5 or 6-0. Anyway, whenever he's going to play against Devonshire Colts, I say, "Wow, I know we're going to get a lick in here." But the problem, the point is, Gary, what is the influence that Dane had on you guys the way you played? Because I'm gonna tell you, out of all the teams, I wanted to mimic and play football like Devonshire Colts, the way Devonshire Colts played, and I thought that was really something you guys was like, "Wow, I want to play this way." And a lot of people haven't seen the way you guys played, but it was so many good games that I saw. So what influence, again, can you tell us what influence that Donald Dane had on the game that you guys played so correctly? I was like, whoa.
Yeah, well, everything we did, we prepared to do, we did in training. And even when he coached, the first team I played for that he coached was the East End Primary School team. And even from then on, it was about control football, pass and move. You had to have a good ball control, good passing ability, and be fit, and be prepared to work hard. And every team he's coached has carried on that way. From the East End Primary School, the St. George's Youth Club was formed by the bulk of that primary school team, and he coached that team. And every team he's coached is all about control football, playing from the back, playing out. So you have to have good technique and a good mind, good footballing mind. And he never asked you to do anything that we didn't practice. You train a certain way, you train to do things that you wanted to do on a Sunday afternoon, and that's how he worked. And it never changed. It never changed.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if we can get Clyde involved. Mr. Bass, can you hear us now? Can you hear us now, Mr. Bass? Yeah, he's struggling with his. Yeah. So what we'll do, we continue on. We'll continue on until if we can kind of work it out for Clyde. Gary, when you leaving Devonshire Colts in '72, you ended up in Montreal. How did that all come about?
The coach of the Montreal team was Graham Adams, the former national team coach here in Bermuda. And at that time, the team was made up of a lot of players from the apprentice program from the UK. One of the outstanding people that played on that group was Graham Souness, the great Liverpool player and Scotland player. He was on that team, but he was at Tottenham Hotspur as an apprentice. So during that particular season, about 3 or 4 of the players had to go back to prepare the preseason, and he needed some players to keep his team going to the end of the season. So I went over about mid-season. Graham called and invited me over to play the season out. And then I must have impressed enough for them to ask me back for the next year. So that's how I ended up in Montreal. And I think that goes to show if you do things right, the attitude is correct, and you're prepared when the opportunity comes, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, definitely. and
Yeah.
then you moved over to the Washington Diplomats. And obviously, what a lot of people don't realize is that we had a number of players playing in the NASL at that time. You know, just having those matches, seeing friends or familiar face, but having to do battle against us. Very few of you actually played on the same teams. Take us through that the Diplomats time for you, and then obviously facing off against Bermuda players. I know that you faced off against Clyde's team several times.
Yeah, well, just go back to the Montreal team. When I went to join Montreal, we already had Sam Newsom was there, Richard Simmons, and I don't know if you remember the Moroccan player Mustafa Abedi, played for Hotels International.
Yes, yes.
He was there as well. So when I first moved over, I was going into a familiar site. I knew Graham, and to have those guys there was an easy fit. And then I ended up next to me. There was, I'm trying to think on the Bermuda. Randy Horton was there, obviously. Sam Newsom, Johnny Newsom, Ralph Gumbo Bean played a year there. Pinks Lewis, Dale Russell, Albert Dolan. So there were a number of players that played in the North American Soccer League during the time I was there. I was a teammate of mine for a year in Washington. And then Randy came over as well to Washington from he came over from the Cosmos, I think.
Mm.
So what I really liked about the whole experience was that most times you were playing against people that you didn't know. You know, they had all nationalities. I think on the Washington Diplomats team at one point, we had like 14 different nationalities.
Yeah.
And football is such a universal game, a universal language in itself that, you know, it didn't make a difference. You didn't have to communicate too much except hold away the ball when you wanted and give it up when you had somebody to play it to, you know. So, but it was the interesting thing I found about that is that you didn't know the person you're playing against directly, your direct opponent. So you gave an opportunity to test yourself and to see, just be the best that Gary Darrow you could be against this person that's from Yugoslavia or Italy, whoever it might be, and then see how you came out on the end of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Punchy.
Hey, Gary, can I ask you, Gary, what actually position, Gary, would you say, like nowadays, everybody's talking about number 10, number 9, number 7. So I would took you as a central midfielder. Am I correct? Is that a position that you really would?
Well, yeah, basically, I start off before the 4-2-4, the W formation as an inside forward. And then when you went, basically, those teams are playing 4-2-4. So I was one of the midfield players, or I'll be a wide player on the right. But mainly as a midfield player, I want the two midfield players. Central, left, or right, it didn't matter. And I think even moving on, always played in midfield for Devonshire Coast and Wellington Rovers. And when I went to Montreal, it's the same thing. And I just carried through to Washington as well.
Okay. The other question I want to ask you is locally. I remember Bombs, the people that you played around, some of the midfielders that you played around. Even I think you played with Pepe Deal too, right? Pepe Deal was playing at the time.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Marcus Douglas, Mr. Can, I think it was Willis Can. Am I correct?
Yeah, Willis.
Yeah, tell me, can you tell us about Willis Can's ability? Because I saw him, I was a really young kid, and I remember Willis Can so much. God bless him. What was, and he's left-footed, am I correct?
Nobody could tell. He was still on.
Yeah, that's what I was. Good, Gary.
We used to call him Crinkle Toad. He's one of the most unorthodox players you'll meet. Play against. He just did things that you never expected. Even in training, he was an awkward person to train with. When we were doing maybe some block tackling, when you go right foot to right foot, he was going right foot to left foot and banging your knees and doing all sorts of things. But terrific skills, very good on the ball, hard worker, good player to play with. And just like all the other coaches, if you want to make the team, you have to train. And he put his time in, and he's just a very skillful player. We actually became, here's part of the reason I ended up going to Devonshire Coast, because we were on the Pan American Game team in Winnipeg in 1967. He and Marcus, and when I came back, he had a little influence of my going to Devonshire Coast, but that's where he played as well. But he was and we became a very good friend. Ended up in his wedding and all sorts of stuff. His daughter, my daughter, and stuff like that. So terrific person as well.
Punchy, I do have Clyde Best. He's on the line.
You got it?
Here.
Okay.
So any questions you have, you can ask him and he'll be able to answer. So go ahead.
Oh, is he on now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Clyde, how are you doing?
Can you hear him?
No, I can't. You can hear me, Clyde?
Yes, I hear you now.
Okay, I can just about hear you. I was glad that you accepted to come on the show. I first want to speak about this, sir. I remember years ago I was going to Technical Institute. I was at Technical Institute, and you were playing for Robert Call or Churchill. And I remember come up the hill and watch all those games at Frog Lane. Now, Clyde, I think at one time, because I was like, "Whoa, this guy is so good." I was only a junior kid, but I think you were playing against the American College, or I forget where they came from. And I think you guys beat them 13 or 21-0 or something like that. And I think how many goals did you score in that game, Clyde? Because you were playing with Dirk Simmons, and you were playing.
Well, you got to remember, Punch, at that time, football in Bermuda was at a very high standard.
Right. Not really hearing you yet, but I can.
You're not hearing me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can hear you. Yeah, okay. If I can get it a little bit louder, go ahead.
The American team was a school team from Finley, and we had played them in a two-legged affair. I think the aggregate was like 30-something, one or something like that. But they were American teams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was saying that it was an American team. They were still young as well, Punchy. So, but yeah, football was a lot different back then, he said.
Oh yeah, I do believe that, because I mean, just mesmerized by the school. I mean, it used to be hundreds of people coming out of school and going to watch these games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Clyde, I remember that quite well. I think you played along. Dirk Simmons was on your team too. Am I right?
Well, as I say, I also remember Gary Darrow and the Georgia Scouts giving a good highly rated team a good high at St. George's one day, and that made us pay attention and said, "Hey, we want to be fit."
Oh. Can you hear him? Still not hearing correctly. Still not hearing all of them, Earl.
Yeah, hold on. I've lost him on the phone.
Okay.
But yeah, he was saying that he remembers playing against Gary when he was with the East End Club and getting a good hiding. So it's one of those things. Let me see if I can actually do
this again, boys.
Okay, Clyde, can you hear us now? Okay, well, let's go on some more. Punchy,
okay.
Something's going on with my phone. It won't come back on, so I'm gonna have to leave that for a minute or two. But Gary, when you look at how you guys used to travel the island, playing disciplined football, having that self-pride and that teamwork. How much, and I think you alluded to it a little earlier when you was talking about what Donald Dane was forcing you guys to do or telling you guys to do. You done it in training. You were doing it in the game. So when you start looking at how things materialized over the course of your time playing locally first, how did that help you when you did turn pro?
Well, I think when I wrote the little tribute to Mr. Dane, I alluded to that in saying that the principles that he installed way back in East End Primary School he carried on all the way through our relationship. If you want to play, you need to train, you need to make time, you need to be disciplined and be a team player. You know, you had to respect the game and your teammates. You had a mutual respect for everybody in the team. And it taught you the very basics. A lot of things that of my game I did consciously because I was taught how to do it. I used to struggle to chip the ball, to work on my chipping, and until it got to the point where I could do it, and so I understood the mechanics to it. I used to take a lot of slam, dribbling the ball. People could tackle the ball and me at the same time. So we worked on push the ball and then just run around the defender. So you do these things consciously, and when they become more of a habit, they happen automatically for you at whatever level. You might just have to do it a little quicker, recognize when it should be done, and it just helped. The basics that I picked up through primary school, the St. George's Youth Club, Wellington Rivers, Devonshire Coast, helped me to do, have I think it was a very enjoyable professional experience in Montreal and in Washington.
Very. Yeah, that seems great. I mean, it seems that Don Dame prepared you really well, which is a good thing. Can I ask you a question? I want to ask you is, I know you played against Clyde at times, and I remember coming to Somerset for those big games. I don't remember where you guys actually home games were, but you know, getting on the bus and going up Somerset and watching those games is being butterflies to me. Any memories of some games that you played against Clyde that you can tell us about? Special games, any special ones?
I can tell you one special one that Clyde will remember this, is he had been on trials, I think, it was shortly after the Penning game, and his good friend Gordon Cholmondeley had been on trials in the U.S., and they came back and Devonshire Coast played Somerset at Somerset, and we ended up beating them 6-2, which was you don't go to Somerset and beat Somerset 2, you know. That stands out as one pleasant memory. But there were other memories, like a week or two later, we played them in the FA Cup final out at BAA, and they beat us, I think the score was 3-2 or something like that. And then we played them again the following weekend in Vallejo in the Friendship final. So we might have won the league back, but they certainly paid us back with the 2 losses in the FA Cup and the Friendship final. But I always look forward to playing against Somerset. They were a good team, and I enjoy playing against good teams and good players. And it normally gave you a chance to find out how good you were. You know, there were games that on a Saturday night you couldn't wait until Sunday came. You couldn't wait to get to the field and be a part of those wonderful games that we had. Somerset as well as PHC, North Village, and the other teams. But it was something that I look forward to. I used to prepare well and never want to go out and be embarrassed by not performing well. So I took it like Earl mentioned very early on, the pride you took in your present performance and with the team being successful.
Yeah.
Okay.
What were some of your biggest rivalries for the team, obviously for Devonshire Coast, that you had with other teams around the island?
There were always, you know, Somerset obviously was one of our biggest rivals. PHC, North Village. We used to have we used to play for a trophy, I think the Edward Dijon trophy between Devonshire Coast and Devonshire Cougars. That was a rivalry there. And whenever I played against my St. George's friends, it was a personal rivalry. I had all my years playing, I got one red card. And I lost. Who do you think I was playing against?
Oh, well.
St. George's Coast.
Wow.
Up at PhD.
Who else would you get sent off for? It's something when you play against the guys you grew up with, the guys you know, and basically you know how it goes. It's too many of them against just learn you. And you know they're targeting everything you've done from marbles to you know whatever it was back in the day that just to get under your skin. But when you look at how you guys today are such good friends, growing up playing against each other and having the respect, is that where you guys kind of left it all on the field. When you came off, you were back to being friends?
Yes, absolutely. You're very friendly with your teammates. I'm sure Poncho will probably remember when he was playing that the camaraderie was so good that if you went to watch another game, if you looked around, there were at least half or more of your teammates that were watching the same game. We trained together, we played together, we socialized together, and we would be staying together. We were more than just teammates, we were friends, you know. And I think anybody that's been a part of something that's been fairly successful, those friendships rarely change. They might diminish a little bit, but deep down they're still your good friends, you know. Like I think back in Wellington days, Neil Painter, Senior, was a very best friend coming out of St. George's. Ashton Rayner played for Wellington Rovers, and she was he's a good friend. Juju Mabry, their friendships are still there. And then when you come to Jefferson Coast days, and Marcus Douglas and Willie and Pepe and Oliver Casey and Vic Ball, and it just goes on, you know. And we still have mutual respect for each other and sincerely call each other friends.
Yeah, I remember when you came back and you went back with Devonshire Colts. And you took up a little bit of the coaching capacity, but you were still playing. How difficult was it then for you to be coming off the bench sometimes starting, but still try to be in control of the team?
Yeah, it's always a big challenge. You know? One of the biggest challenges is that you want to demand things of players, you need to do those things yourself. You shouldn't go out making demands on other people that you weren't prepared to do. So when I went to the field, I changed my head and became a player. I was no longer the coach. I just went about taking care of my own responsibility. You know, it's a bit of a challenge because I can recall one game in St. David's when we were playing. I think it might have been Dendytown or somebody, and the Lorenzo Simons, the skipper of the team at that point in time. I was on the bench and waiting, hoping I didn't have to come on. And he started out to me, "What you waiting for? You're waiting for you get yourself in the field." I went on the field and did my part, and we were able to come away with the win. You know, so it is a challenge. Anybody trying to do these days is trying to even more challenge.
Yeah. Punch?
Yeah. This is gonna be a little maybe a question you could answer, Gary. About how players leave one team, because you know back in those days you stayed with your team always. But, you know, I heard when I was younger that there was a big stink when Alfie Smith, my good friend, God bless him, he's passed, left North Village and came to play for Devonshire Colts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember any fuss or anything going on about it. What I do remember is that, and you might have heard it during the program that we were on, that not just anybody could come and play for Colts.
Right.
You know? And it was more than just being a good player. If you had the ability and you want to be a part of what we had worked very hard to develop, we actually kind of had a little interview process. And even and then we say, okay, fine, this guy could enhance what we're doing now, and we could help him. There were some players that we might have been reluctant to take because of the lifestyle off the field. And then we say, well, can we as a group be more of a good influence over him than he could be as an individual, a better influence over us? And for the most part, we take that person in and they got to know what we stood for and just conform to what we wanted to do, and it worked out very well in most cases. There were times I remember Mr. Dane, there's somebody who came to train with his vice trainer, and it gets to the point where he comes and say to Coach, how am I doing? Am I looking pretty good? And Mr. Dane, being the honest person he is, well, if you want to play every Sunday, I think you need to go somewhere else to play. Because you don't appear to be of the caliber of a person that will make our team on a regular basis. And with the greatest respect, he would say that. And for the most part, the player would probably leave and go somewhere else, which would give an opportunity to play every Sunday rather than being sitting around. And you know what, people who don't get a chance to play, they can create some problems for you if you're not managed properly.
I was really hoping that we would have had you and Clyde on, because I wanted to ask you if you remember this encounter.
Here comes Portland, long ball into the penalty area for Clyde Best. Kenny Hill knocks it away from him, and Gary Darrell chips it high out of the penalty area to the far side.
That was back in 1977.
Yeah, they playing for the Portland Timbers.
Yes, yes.
We always, whenever we played against each other, we always found time to get together after the game, whether it be in Washington or, because remember he played in Tampa and in Portland. So.
Right. Now he scored against you guys once, but that was in a loss. The games that he didn't score, you guys actually you lost. It was one of those funny things where you would rather him score and they lose.
And they lose, right? But you know, the thing that all the Bermudians that played in the league, they represent us very well. You know, there were some good caliber players. If you look at some of the players that we play with and against, and their background compared to the guys that left here, I think it just goes to show if you have the basics, understanding of the game, prepared to work and adjust as necessary, just given the opportunity.
Yeah, you did mention that you guys came back from the Pan Am Games, but before you moved to Montreal.
Yeah,
the caliber of that team and the makeup of that team. Take us through some of those players that turned out for Bermuda during that time. That kind of when you guys would have played in that tournament, you would have kind of surprised other countries.
Yeah, well, I remember we were going to the Pan American Games in Winnipeg in 1967, looking for some experience. We had learning experience. We didn't have to qualify to get there, so we didn't play any games leading up to it. We went to the game, and our first 3 games, I think we were first 3 games against the United States, Canada, and I don't remember who the other team was. But either way, we didn't lose. We ended up getting to the semifinal, playing against Trinidad and Tobago. We just didn't. I think they beat Argentina.
I think you need to turn your volume down just a little bit.
Okay.
Getting that feedback, I believe.
How's that? More better?
That's better, yes.
Okay. And we ended up playing against Trinidad, and Trinidad had just beaten, I think it was Argentina in the semifinal, and they were already celebrating their way into the final, playing against Bermuda. We played, I won't say it was the most attractive football, but we were a unit, but extremely hard for each other. And that was a very matter of way of playing. He would pick the people that put the hard work in, as opposed to the more skillful players, like people like Willis and Marcus and Neil Blue, and myself on occasion. They have different making their team. At one point, our midfield player were Bobby Daniels, Jeff Domain, Tinty Mead, the guys that took no nonsense. You know, they're ball winners. And they stop over the blame and nothing starts to feel right. But then of course we're looking at Becky Deal, Clyde Best, and maybe Baldy Smith. You know, so you had those who were there. Kenny Kane and Gordy come on there at the back, Noah Simon, Woody Myers, and Dennis Wainwright and go. You know, it was a tremendous squad and a very close team. And when we beat Trinidad and end up getting in the final against Mexico, that was more than we had ever hoped to accomplish when we went over there. We just were doing basically for some extraordinary experience. And we came back as winners of the silver medal.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. I remember those national games. Yeah. Graham Adams. What was he really like, Gary, and coaching? Like, what was I know you did mention some fact that he preferred the hard working player. What kind of character did he also demand? What kind of person what did he demand of you guys?
Well, Graham was, and it never changed because I met him in '66. When I went to Montreal in '72, I linked up with him again, and nothing about him had changed. He was still the same. Like, made sure his teams were very fit, Most of the sessions were geared around fitness. There wasn't a whole lot of tactics involved, but he knew how to pull us together as a team. We had, as usual, mutual respect for each other. Because remember back then, people were keen, looking forward to being a part of the national program. So the competition amongst the players was very keen. The respect for each other was very high, and he was able to roll together with a very good team. A very good team.
All right, yeah. You know, with the resurgence of our national program with the national players playing overseas now, anything that you've seen on the national program that you kind of like? Because I know you were a national coach at one time also. Now that there's a lot of overseas players playing for us, do you see much improvement on where we are now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a different kind of belief because they're accustomed to playing away from home. They're used to playing against people that they don't know. They're used to playing in different environments, and they're used to playing at a higher level than they would be playing if they were playing domestically. You know, and then when you put all those things together, and with the coaching that they get and the support they get from the association, it is definitely, I think, an improvement with the overall result of the national program right now.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask this question because I think it's vital that we understand the difference of playing when you were playing professional football and when you were playing domestic football. What would you consider being the biggest difference, other than the fact that you're doing football all the time and you're professional as opposed to doing it as an amateur? What are some of the big things that you saw where once you arrived in Montreal and you're playing that Bermuda did not offer at the time?
Initially, a little bit intimidated because I had such a high image of a professional football player. You know, I just thought that there was a great profession where you're doing it that you love, you're doing it full time and getting paid for it. So I went in kind of a little intimidated, not sure how I'll make out. But then I'm thinking that if Graham has invited me over, he must have seen something about my game that made him believe that I can manage and do all right over there. And I just had enough belief in myself at that point to just go on and just try and be the best Gary that I could be. You know, I knew my basic skills were good. They knew they'd have to worry about my fitness. I was always in pretty good shape, or in good shape. And that I understood the game well enough to play, and I could follow instructions. And I think I could make if not the best decision, a good decision most times. So that was the biggest challenge, you know, in the environment. Particularly the other thing that was nice about it, at the professional level, you just need to take care of yourself. You just do your job. Make sure you do your job properly. You ain't gotta worry about somebody else, helping somebody else. Because everybody on that team were as good or better than you.
Yeah. Well, we're joined by Dennis Brown, but I do want to put a smile on Punch's face, because remember this, Punchy? That was the hairstyle back then. That was Gary.
But you want a lot of hair, a lot. Yeah, I got you. That's right. I got you. I wanted to see that. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Well, good evening, Dennis, and obviously we're here having this chat with Gary Darrell. Unfortunately, Clyde was having some technical issues, and he apologized that he couldn't continue. But we're talking about his time starting out at Wellington Rovers, going to Devonshire Colts, then moving overseas to play in the North American Soccer League, and then back in Bermuda. But over the course of his time playing, obviously he's made a lot of friends and used that to his ability. Gary, one thing I noticed about you when I first met you as a young man, and something that I think rubbed off what I saw when I first met Mr. Dane as well, is the cool and calmness of the way you go about what you do. I watched quite a bit of the North American Soccer League game between you and Clyde, and the way you gracefully walked around, moved around the field, it was that calm demeanor. Where did you pick that up from?
I don't know. I guess I was probably born with it. I do think that I don't think there's any question that Mr. Daniel probably had some influence on that. I admired the way he did things, and I don't think I perfectly copied the way he did things. But it's interesting that you should mention that, because I remember the year I coached Dandy Town. The same calm demeanor we talked about. Some of the fans came to me and said, "Man, you gotta get up and down, get up off your chair and start shouting and get up and down the sideline. Getting people to pay me. You're too calm." A year or two later, and somebody else was coaching the team, and they were kind of robust as they were wishing for. The same guy came and said, "I think you need to come back. We need to come in your calm out here." So I guess it depends on who you are and what works for you, I guess. And that's the way I am.
Definitely. Dennis, any questions?
Good night,
My
Coach.
good friend. Hey there, my good friend.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you too. One question I have for you. We are experiencing, well, for the last few years, we've been experiencing a lot of racism in football. Did you encounter, there's two questions in one really. Did you encounter a lot of racism when you went out to the NASL, and how did you deal with it, if you did?
Well, believe it or not, I didn't experience anything.
Oh, wow.
Nothing at all. And if you remember, I mentioned earlier that on the Washington team alone, we had like 13, 14 different nationalities.
Okay.
And at that time, most the game in the United States was a suburban game.
Okay.
And the crowds were basically white people. There was a whole lot of blacks playing. And the stadium you played in, 75% of the people in the stadium were white folks, and they came. It was a real family sport. They brought the children. They came. The environment was great, terrific. At the end of the game, you sign an autograph, and you got a club that I forget what club it was, but you got a chance to beat the fans after the game and mingle with them, And it was really. I was there. I had a very positive experience in my time over in the North American Soccer League.
Okay. One more question.
Some of the Dennis, before you move on, I think we had probably a bit more of I won't call it a race, but a team rivalry, where with there being so many foreigners in our team, that the young Americans became a little resentful.
Okay.
You come from my country, and you're playing before me, and that kind of stuff became a bit of an issue sometimes, but nothing to be concerned about.
Okay. One more question. The best 5 local players that you played with, and the best 5 foreign players that you played with in your career.
Okay, local players that I played with.
Put you on the spot.
No problem. You want me to 10 or just? Okay.
Somebody that you played with and foreign.
5 players. Pepe Deal.
Okay.
Pepe, I'll play with Pepe any day. Marcus Douglas.
That was my hero.
Yeah. Okay. David Furman, one of the best one-on-one defenders that I've ever played with. My brother Gilbert.
Okay.
How many is that?
4.
4. Okay. And Bob Simmons.
Okay. And
Cal
the
Simmons.
5 foreign players.
5 foreign. What do you asking? The 5 best players?
You played with, yeah. Okay.
So, I guess at the top of the list, there's no question. The best that I played with was the Johan Cruyff.
Yeah, definitely.
And his teammate Wim Jansen.
Okay.
There was a goalkeeper, Eric Martin, played for Southampton when they won the FA Cup.
Okay.
And there was a Hungarian player, Joseph Hobart. He's probably one of the few players that could speak no English, but was a tremendous player. And there's one more Spanish player that actually moved to Belgium to play to avoid being drafted in the army. Juan Lozano. You didn't hear much about him, but during his short career, he was an outstanding player. He played for the Belgium national team and played for a number of different Belgian clubs.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Gary.
Brother.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question, Gary. It's good back to you personally. You know, nowadays, with me, and I think with Dennis also, Dennis and I spoke about this before, about studying the craft of the game. How, because I know if my brother said I played with North Face, we used to train so much, even in the summertime. And I don't see a lot of that going on now. What was it like for you then? How did you train? Like, even when you were, did you train often? Like, were you like 5 days a week or 7 days a week with the ball? Because I mean, you know, your craft was very good. Your quality was so good, smooth. So that don't come by just it's not by accident. Can you give us? Can you tell us like what you used to do?
Well, you know, I'm glad it didn't come by accident. I'm glad it didn't come naturally, all of it naturally. Because if you do most things naturally, you're doing it instinctively. A lot of my game, I was taught, I learned, and I did it consciously. And I think that's one of the major differences between the amateur level and the professional level is you have to play more from a plan, more from your head. You're asked to do something, and the sign of a good player is being able to do it when the situation demands. To do it in training is one thing, but when you practice something all week, and the situation comes where you should use it in a game, and you do it, for me, that's the sign of a good player. But I always had decent training habits. I always found time to do a little extra. You know, never wanted to be unfit. Never wanted to be unprepared. I can remember, I'll tell you earlier a story about when I was playing for Wellington Rovers. Teddy Swainson, I was in Georgia. We used to train at the Garrison.
Yes.
And most of my friends had a bike or some other form of transportation, and they'd ride from the Garrison out to just by the entrance to St. George's Cricket Club. I don't know if you remember Vinus Variety Store. At the top of the hill.
Yes.
We used to hang out there. Well, when they rode out, I used to run from the Garrison, go up by the St. George's Cemetery, up the hill, across the golf course, and meet them at the Vinus Variety. So Teddy decided that he was going to go with me one evening. And when we got out there, he said, I'll never do that again. It was crazy. You know? Because I was sprinting uphill and shooting downhill and jumping over sand traps and all that kind of stuff, you know. And even in my younger days, with my military thing with my brother, Kenny Spot Darrell, we used to just get out and run from Wellington out to the swing bridge and back, you know, and sprint from light post to light post and making jumps and fake headers and things like that. So I think those early work ethic habits helped me through all the way through my career. But I did spend time, you know.
Right. And the second question I want to ask you, Gary, being you involved with a lot of, I mean, you coached at the national level, but now you're coaching, helping out with what he was, Sumter Bridge. That information that you just told us, do you think it's receptive for the people that you're around giving the information? Do they accept it, or you find a different mentality here in this country now?
I think
for local-based players, yeah.
I think they understand it and accept it, but I don't think they're too keen to implement it. You know what I mean? I hear what you're saying. It's easy enough for me to do, but am I dedicated enough to just go it and do it? You know, I think that's an individual thing. You know, I know in all my coaching experience, and even now, I try not to ask anything of players that I don't think they're capable of doing, or say anything to them that they don't understand. You know, it's simple enough. It's really like the knowledge is there. You choose to use it or you don't. Like the old saying is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know, it's still right. You know, but what I did, I'm not the only one that did things like that. But the successful player, I think my good friend George Brengman, you can tell by his habits. I can remember we had a coaching course. I was a national coach. We brought in a Canadian player to do. A Canadian coach to do a course, and John Tucker and George Brengman and players of that era were a part of the coaching staff. And even in those games, if you remember anything about George, he'd be at the back post on a header. By the time the goalkeeper caught it, he's back in the middle of the field getting ready to defend. You know, and even after he stopped playing, those habits are still there. When I was playing with some of the extras, those things are still there. So some of those habits are ingrained, but unless you're prepared to develop those habits, then you're never going to get them. You know, you just can't. You tell players nowadays you can't expect to just show up on a Sunday and perform at the level they're capable of if you don't prepare.
Yeah. Thank you.
Looking at some of the guys that you played with, obviously you guys always want to do better than your opponent. How much did you find pushing each other in training to make sure that you're ready for that Sunday game? Did you guys have to do amongst yourselves?
Well, it almost came naturally at the Colts in particular, like even at Wellington Rovers, because you know that if you didn't, the training sessions were as intense as games. You were training for a spot in the team, and if you knew you didn't make the team this week, you might not make that team for another month or so. You know, if you lost your spot, you're in the team, then you're working hard to get back in because there were no walk-ins. Everybody trained, everybody performed their best, and you were driving your teammate to make sure that he's the best that he could be and you're the best that you could be. And that just became a habit that you carried into the game, you know.
I know everybody has a favorite field they like to play on and visit and so forth. Which one would you say in Bermuda was the field you like to play on the most?
The thing that all the players strive to do is play up on the carpet. Up on the National Stadium, there's no other field in the island like it, you know. That's the final to play on the carpet. Or let's get in the national team to play on the carpet. It's a whole different experience playing on a good field. You had no excuses.
Yeah.
A good field like that showed out a bad player. If you're a bad player, don't play at National Stadium. You know, no red high, no bumps in the field. So that was my favorite at the top level, but I really enjoyed playing up at Somerset and at Wellington Oval.
Yeah. Dennis?
Yeah, when how old were you when you first played for the Bermuda national team? What was your age and what was it like, you know, your first few years when you first played for the national team?
At the senior national team, I think I was 18.
Okay.
18, 19, because when we went to the Pan American Games, I was 20. Yeah, I was about 18. But I also played. They had I think they did some work up at the National Stadium, and when they reopened it, they had a over 21 play against the under 21. I played in that team. I actually remember there being a story in the press about me playing against my brother Gilbert. He was on the over 21, I was on the under. So yeah, I must have been about 18, 19.
Okay. And one more question.
I want everybody to know that when I first made the national team, I was playing for Wellington Rovers. I'm
pretty sure that if there's anybody in St. George's listening, you can go ahead now, Gary. You can
all right.
So Gary, sorry, Coach, on the explain to me, because I've heard a lot of stories about when you guys went to the Pan Am Games. You got to the finals, and it was like a hostile crowd or something like that. You guys were playing in front of. Can you explain your experience about getting that far in the tournament and how it was playing in the finals?
The Pan American Games, we reached the final. You couldn't have wanted a more welcoming environment. So it might have been a qualifying game against Guatemala or something like that. That we kind of got into a hostile environment.
Okay.
But that American game, the games were in Winnipeg, Canada, and the Canadians went all out. I mean, you could be walking the street in your tracksuit, and people would stop and pick you up and take you to their home for lunch. They just made you feel so welcome. And with us having success we did, that then enhanced the experience.
Okay. My last question: how did you get from Wellington to Devonshire Coast?
Caught the number 7 bus. I moved out of St. George's. And I was working in Hamilton as well. And we had just returned from the same Pan Am games, and I was looking to find a team to play for in the Central area.
Okay.
And I was approached by Nibs was on that team, and he asked about coming to PHC. And then Donald Dane asked me, and like I told you guys earlier, it was a no-brainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gary, I'm going to ask you a question. It's going to be, first of all, who did you think when you looked around when you were playing, or the people that when you were playing with me? I'm looking for local players that you thought this guy's really good. Then when you were playing, and could you give me a name, somebody that's caught your eye here now in this country, local base player?
When I was playing, there were a number of players that I admired. If I go to at PHC, Nips Lewis, at Somerset, Clyde, Bowley Smith, Richard Simmons, North Village. You weren't playing yet, were you, bunch of? Sam Newton,
Yeah.
Those guys, the Calhoun twins, those guys.
Yeah.
Now, locally, it's interesting. Even though I'm around the game and I'm out every Sunday with the Somerset Bridge Eagles, there's so few players that I know. But the one that might have just stopped playing this past season that I admired was Kwame Steve. Kwame from Dendytown, Devonshire Cougars. I think he's an exceptional player. And today's player, I guess don't know enough of them to. Oh,
I see. Yeah, I was almost the reason I'm asking is I've almost picked my 11 that I will qualify to maybe make the national team. But I picked my 11 anyway. But it's just interesting because I'm always trying to identify with players like yourself, with Dennis. Who do I see now that has that quality locally? And it's kind of I've got some names, but I was very impressed. I'm not going to subject. I was very impressed with one young man with at Somerset Eagles there, a little left wing. I think he's only 18. I stayed around to speak with him. I think I talked with you about it. I don't remember his name. He reminds you of such quality. He came from St. George's from last year.
Right.
And I thought, whoa, his left side. I could tell you, I kind of mentally mental note of how many mistakes he made. He's a very good attacking player. I hope he gets to the national level. I hope he does, because I do. Yeah. He's one of my young good players in this country now. If you know what's his name?
I can't tell you his name. I know you're talking about bushy hair, left sided player, young. Yeah. And this first year with the team, playing basically off of natural ability. What you see, and has tremendous potential. There's no question about that. And I could understand why he caught the eye. It's the same kind of thing with him where he now has to learn to make better decisions. You know, to dribble and not to dribble, that kind of stuff. But he's not going to be able to do those things unless he's coached it. You can't wait until he develops it naturally. Then by the time he gets it, it may be too old. But if he spends some time and gets some good information and pays attention, then that's going to take him a long way with what he already has.
That's why I'm so glad about having, when I see you around and I see Dennis involved in the game, just getting the right information. And you see such a talent like that, So I just wanted to add that to the show, considering what I look like, not changing the subject about the show, but I just found him really good. And I'm sure, I wish him the best, and I wish you the best also, Gary.
Yes, thank you.
Any final question, Dennis?
I would just like to thank Coach for his contribution to football. Like one of the things that I always admired was his calm demeanor as a coach. Like we were the national team, always had a calm demeanor, even on the adverse circumstances, you know what I mean? And I'd just like to even thank him for, being White Hill, although White Hill's not a team that I like. You know, but at the end, helping Jensen, to be a better coach and stuff like that. And I think, you've given so much to football in Bermuda, and just want to thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I got as much back out of it as I've given to you for sure. It's been a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful game that's helped to make my life a really good and enjoyable life. I can't think of a year when football was not a part of my life. So I just thank the game for what it's allowed me to do. There's a couple of things that you learn when you get a chance to get off the island and play and be among people that you didn't know before, or against people you might only see on that one occasion. You learn things about yourself that you would never realize playing here. The things that I did during a game or at a presentation, that I'll go home and look myself in the mirror and say, gosh, was that really you? Standing up and making speeches before 200 or 300 people. At one point, I was afraid to walk across the floor. There was 20 people in the room, but it just helps you to develop. It helped to make me the kind of person that I am, and I'm grateful for that. And I think football has, without question, been an influence on the kind of person that I've turned out. And I think I'm not too bad. I think I did all right.
Any final question, Punch?
No, I just want to thank Gary and being applied. Thank you for being such an ambassador of the game, Gary. Thank you so much. The country does need it. I'm so glad that when I did 2 weeks ago when I heard on 102.7 and about Donald Dane. So that's what the country is needed more of, hearing people like yourself. And I'm glad that Earl has started the show, so we can kind of at least discuss these things, especially going on memory lane also, and find out the things that people might hear. Oh yeah, my uncle was that good. Yes, he was. Yes, he was that good. So it's just glad to hear it from another view. That's what I'm hoping the show can reveal about what our country, the quality of of players that played in your era, and players that I used to go see and just couldn't wait to get to play like you. So that's my point. Again, thank you so much for being such a great ambassador for this country. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Monty. Thank you.
And in closing, Mr. Darrell, I do want to thank you very much for taking your time out to sit and reminisce, take us back down memory lane about your times with Wellington Rovers. I know that brings back a lot of memories. Devonshire Colts, Montreal, and Portland as well. So I want to thank you again and look forward to you enjoying football week in and week out once we do get back playing football, because I know, like you said, you can't remember a time going by without football being around you. So again, thank you very much. And folks, we want to thank you for joining yet another edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. We'll be back next Tuesday night at 7:30. Do enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks a lot. Bye, Gary. Thanks, Dennis.
All right, John.